Before lunch, we heard about data engineers. Now we're going to hear about AI-led CX perfectionists. And I'd like to introduce, for our next sponsored session, I'd like to introduce David Geffen from Glassbox. He's the VP of Product Marketing. David, over to you.
Hey. So in the next 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about how AI fits and drives your customer experience. So the data in organizations today has given companies the ability to analyze customer behaviors. AI has taken a step further by analyzing customer behavior throughout the customer journeys in near real time. Now, it allows companies to become better at predicting preferences at scale and personalize their experience. Now, AI is a great buzzword, but before we begin, it would be helpful just to quickly reflect upon how AI became to be such an influence in the world of CX. Now, this is kind of where we stand today. And this stat is a well-known stat, and there are others like it, but 11% of companies believe they understand their users' digital behavior well. That's a very nice way of putting, but just around 90% believe that they don't understand their users' behavior well. I'm sure many of you are kind of familiar with these kinds of stats, and you're kind of asking yourselves, how is this possible? That's right. So, data gave companies the ability to analyze their customer behavior. So how come that, only 11% of companies believe that they understand their users' digital behavior well? So yeah, data did give companies the ability to analyze their customer behavior. The challenge is there is so much of this data. Okay, according to IBM, 90% of the data organizations own has been created in the past 2 years. Let's take a minute to reflect upon that. If 90% of the data organizations own today was created in the last 2 years, what this means is in 2 years from now, in 2 years' time, all the data your organization has today, and think of it, all the data your organization has today, every bit and byte, will account for less than 10% in 2 years' time. So there is an incredible amount of data. And it's not obtaining this data, it's understanding what's happening behind this data, which you need to use in order to properly drive customer experience. And this is exactly why organizations are turning to AI. They're turning to understand and positively impact their customers' behavior and experience. Using AI allows them to become better at predicting preferences at scale and personalize these experiences. And this is exactly where Glassbox comes in. So what exactly does Glassbox do? So what Glassbox does is we create frictionless digital journeys for organizations' customers. How do we do this? Very simple. What we do is we capture every single bit and byte, every single element which is happening throughout your customer's journey, your customer's digital journey, when they interact with you on your website or via your native mobile app. So every time they go into your website or go into your native mobile app, this is essentially a session, a journey which they have. Actually, it's even more than that. It's an interaction. Look at it very simply as like a phone conversation in the 80s and 90s, but rather a conversation between two people. It's a conversation between your customer and your organization via your website. They are asking, or your native mobile app, they are asking to do something, see a page, make a purchase, fill out a form, whatever it might be. They're asking to do stuff, and your website, your web server is providing them this information which they need, providing them this activity. But it is a conversation. It is an interaction. And a standard one of these interactions, where we're sort of around, let's say, 7-8 pages or 7-8 views, if it's in the native mobile app, has approximately 1,000 elements in it. I'm talking about not only what pages the user went into, not only where he's coming from, the geolocation, and how much time he spent in the page, and how much time it took the page to load, but I'm talking on every single click, touch, swipe, every scroll up, scroll down, tilting of the screen. If it's on a native mobile app, the CPU usage, the memory usage, the battery, how it's performing, the struggles which they have, every single element is captured. We then visualize it so you can play back this interaction, and you can, more than that, you can analyze these interactions. You can understand exactly where customers are struggling, where they're abandoning, and why they are abandoning at scale. And based on that, elevate your customer satisfaction and, of course, your revenue. That is essentially what Glassbox does. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'm going to share with you in the next 15 minutes or so, a bit less, I will share with you a few stories of how this actually comes to work and where AI comes to play. So we'll start kind of a very, very simple and straightforward story, and then we'll take it to a more sophisticated one, which will kind of bring everyone kind of to the same page of the power of AI and what it can actually do. So the most simple one, imagine this, a customer going into your website, and this is, let's say, just as an example, this would be a retail site, and they go inside and they want to, buy a holiday room or buy a hotel room. And the box at the bottom where they need to accept the terms, it's it's below the scroll, and most customers do not see it, so they do not click on this accept button, and they're simply going up the top to the continue, and they don't understand why it doesn't continue. And with this frustration, they give a call up to the contact center saying, hey, I'm trying to get this hotel room and I can't do it, and I'm pressing continue and nothing works. What happens? Okay, that's kind of, and it's a classic case, which many of us have. Okay, there's definitely those who are not familiar with scrolling up, scrolling down, are not looking for this box and just trying to press continue and getting frustrated. So where Glassbox comes in, we enable the contact center to view these sessions in real time, so they can play back these sessions as they are actually occurring. So the person, the user or customer will be calling up the contact center, trying to understand what the problem is. The contact center will go ahead, very, very quickly be able to locate the session, which is happening at this moment, seeing exactly what the customer has been doing, will be able to go play it back and jump exactly to the location where the customer was struggling, because the system automatically identifies these areas of struggle and says, you're getting this because you're trying to press accept, but you didn't, you pressed continue, but you didn't go ahead and understand that you need to press the accept. So be able to identify where the struggle was very, very easily and support the customer in real time, literally while the call is still happening, and thus solving the issue very, very quickly and for the customer. And in this case, getting down the abandonment, getting down the struggle. And as a direct, a direct result for this, reduce the average handle time, the first contact resolution will increase as well. So everything to do with that. That is kind of the most simple term. That's just to kind of show a basic session replay capability, which works in real time, which of course we have. But this is kind of, this is the straightforward stuff. Let's now start looking at it at mass. And let's start taking a few real cases which happen in websites, native mobile apps. Again, we capture both, so it doesn't matter too much. So if I mix up between the two, stay with me on this one. And let's look at a few where AI comes into power too. These are really, really cool stories. Okay. So one of our customers was suffering with a big conversion drop when they came out on a new campaign. In this case, was for new jeans, and they couldn't exactly understand why. I'll let you guys already know why. What you can see here is a website where they're trying to do a new promotion to their jeans, and these new cozy jeans, what appears to be a link is not a link. many times called as a dead link. So customers were clicking on it, thinking it was a link, when in fact it wasn't a link, and they were abandoning. Okay, so you already kind of know what the problem is, what the solution, but just try and imagine the marketeer or the product owner in the organization trying to understand why this campaign is not exactly working. Okay, so where does Glassbox exactly come in? As we say, we capture all the events which are occurring. Okay, so the company issued a new promotion, a new promotion for a line of products. Everything was captured, all the journeys which users were taking. The system automatically pointed to the abandonment. Okay, where were customers abandoning? At the add to cart. That's pretty, again, straightforward. So we're saying, hey, there was a high abandonment here, but this is where it starts to get caught. Okay, so it's not only pointing to where the abandonment was, but before going ahead, you don't need to go ahead and play back every interaction to try and see why users are abandoning. The system with AI looks and automatically understands the reason for the abandonment. So it looks at all of these abandonments, okay, and automatically identifies the top reasons for these abandonments. And then you can simply go ahead, replay those relevant sessions just to confirm what the AI says, to really understand what is happening there. And then you can go ahead and understand why the issue is happening. Go ahead, modify the page, make sure it's a link or put the link in a better place. And simple as that, you can go ahead and fix this conversion and get the conversion up again. Simple as that. This is already where AI starts to come in. So the trick is, again, not only having the data, but what the AI comes and does here, in this case, it will go ahead and understand the reasons behind the customer behavior. And that's a kind of the main thing. If you've got so many sessions inside, you cannot go ahead and replay each one. And the trick is, and this is exactly where AI comes in, AI understands the reasons behind the customer's behavior. And this is great because in this single platform, you can have both marketeers, product owners, DevOps, all working on this single source of truth and sharing the data between each one. Okay. For the last example, which I want to give here, this is kind of covered too. This will now go into the most sophisticated one. Many organizations today use VOC, and voice of customers, of course, use in order to understand the customer's experience, so they get the feedback. The trouble many times with VOC is not its accuracy, but how many actually answer these surveys. So numbers differ, but it's around 1 to 2% only answer. So it's very, very, excuse me, qualitative information. The problem is turning it into something quantitative. So these 1% or 2% of people actually answered the VOC, but what is the actual real impact? And this is where Glassbox works together with many VOCs, actually all VOC solutions, in order to turn this qualitative information into something quantitative. So let's take this example, and this is kind of a more sophisticated one, but I think it'll kind of really bring it all together. So the company correlated their VOC with a customer journey in order to identify a UX issue. In this case, it was for Verizon, trying to operate, customers were trying to operate their new phone and their new plan. How exactly did it work? So again, what happened here, Glassbox again captured all the events, all the journeys, every single bit and byte. And we automatically selected the journeys, basically creating a segmentation with low VOC scores. So we looked at the journeys with a low VOC scores. But then, and this is where the cool part comes in, we looked at all the similar journeys to the ones with a low VOC score, but which didn't have any VOC attached to them. Again, look at all the journeys which had the same path, the same pattern as the ones with a low VOC, but did not have a VOC attached to them. And this is already where it turned into tens of thousands of sessions. This is now, again, where AI came in, and it looked at the abandonment, and it looked at the reason behind it. And what was actually happening over here was that there was a configuration which took too much time for iOS 12.1, with devices 6S users, and they were receiving a system is invalid message. And in that 1% of people who said, hey, this is not working for me, we were able to understand exactly the magnitude of the problem, how many users were suffering actually from this, and of course then go ahead and replay these sessions. So we understood the reasons for abandonment. And then the next thing which our customers did, in this case, Verizon, what they did was they created a report of a funnel of users who go through this step on an ongoing basis once they fixed it. So how many users go inside to their inside the site and try and configure the phone, they press and configure the device and receive their failure. And they monitor this report over time. Now, this would usually be a simple report, but where it came into here is, again, what AI does now is it monitors these reports for you. And it basically looks for anomalies in these reports. So the moment there's a report which acts in an abnormal way, meaning there's some spike of customers who fit this report, goes up or goes down, it automatically alerts. And this way they were not only able to fix it, but also monitor if this issue reoccurs again. So again, I really wanted to cover in this short time these 3 stories of how AI can be used in order to up customer experience, solve problems for product owners such as UX, give the insight for DevOps, help promotions for marketers, and the cool thing here again really is that everything is working on this single source. So it doesn't matter if you're a product owner, business analyst, if CX is one of the things which you're being managed on, this is a great way how to use AI in order to up these business objectives which you have. So just leaving you guys with a few questions, which you might want to go back with, because I know we kind of covered a lot here. So question number 1, does everyone in your organization have the same view of CX data, or are you operating on different platforms? Question number 2, can you guys actually quantify the value of CX improvements in your organization? What would it mean for you to up your CX? How can you even measure it? And question number 3, do you have the data today, all this data and the AI in place you need in order to truly optimize the CX? And if one of these questions picks your brain and saying, hey, we could really start using this data. It's not just capturing, it's trying to understand what's happening behind it. And we could really use this in order to up our CX in the organization with using AI, then let us know and give us a call.
Thanks, David. And I must say that the presentations are all available to people who are participating in the conference today. So just get in contact with us, and we can provide you with copies of any of the presentations. I have a completely non-technologist question for you, David. I'm terrified by the volume of data that's going to be coming our way, as you outlined at the beginning of your presentation. We're obviously relying on AI to weed out what we don't need from all this tsunami of data that's coming our way. Can we rely on AI to do that? And ultimately, is it dependent on how well we train the AI to do that? Is that how we can protect ourselves and make sure that we're not missing all these potential gems that are going to come through?
So the answer is, first of all, we have no other option. As you well stated, the data is simply too much. It's overwhelming and it's continuously growing. And there is one interesting concept as AI, and we often get asked these questions. Will it ever be error-free? I mean, can we guarantee that it will be, 100% true? And to my understanding on this one is AI will never be fully 100% proof, but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to be better than a human decision when you look at massive data. Now, when you have masses of data, it is something which is simply impossible for a human to go through. So AI gives those preliminary insights, where you should be focusing, what the anomalies are, what the problems may be, and then you come ahead and use the human touch, looking at the session replay, looking and saying, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense, or I now understand it. So it's guys kind of basically bringing those two together, using the AI at scale and then bringing the human touch in order to validate the issue. But no doubt, as you said, this is a mind-blowing environment today, which is booming.
Yes, indeed. All right, David, thank you so much for your time. And as I said, David's presentation will be available to those who are interested in it.